This is Baxter Colburn, host of the Verse of the Day podcast. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Tiana Vanderhei here, host of the Refined Redhead podcast on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast. Once you're done with this episode, you should definitely come check out my show, the Refined Redhead podcast, where we talk to real people about relevant information in hopes of inspiring you to chase after whatever dreams you've set out to accomplish, persevering through whatever obstacles are in your way. A new show comes out bi-weekly every Tuesday, so don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of the Refined Redhead podcast. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Play the course, not your opponent, unless your opponent has 18 holes and a flag sticking out of the top of their head. Welcome to Completely Serious. That saying was sent to us by listener Phil Nickerson. Thank you, Phil, for that interesting phrase. Not sure if I've heard that one before. Not sure if I want to hear it again, but we appreciate it. So thank you. And Phil, I think you have contributed in the past, so we appreciate you writing back to us. This is Completely Serious, the show, I said it before, I'll say it again, the show where we have fun and talk sports. It's the only show on the planet whose unofficial slogan is the show where we have fun and talk sports. Actually, you know what? If you know of a show that their slogan is have fun and talk sports, shoot us a message on our Facebook page, the Completely Serious Facebook page, or Twitter me, the host, Ryan Piers, at Ryan Piers Media on Twitter, because I want to know. I also want to know everything I can possibly know about the first and only guest of this episode's show, and I'll get to him in just a second. He's the reason why you clicked on that sideways triangle. He's the reason why you're listening right now. He is, and let me just get his resume out here. He's a former cashier, stockbroker, hospital volunteer. Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. He's a current owner and manager of Hoop Analysis Net. He's a columnist at The Inquisitor and Hoops Habit. He's written for Forbes, so that sounds fancy. ESPN. Hey, I've heard of them. Yahoo, not to be confused with Yoo-Hoo. That's something different altogether. Fox Sports. I wonder if he knows Joseph Buck. Sports Illustrated and Bleacher Report. I should have just listed the websites he hasn't written for. That may have saved me time. In fact, you know what? I will. He's not written for Good Housekeeping, Cosmopolitan, or the National Geographic. Evan Massey is on the show. Evan, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it, too.
No, you've done a lot of great work. You've contributed to a lot of different publications. And what got you into sports writing, and how'd that process go?
Sure. So coming out of high school, obviously I was a huge sports fan. That was pretty much my life at the time. I actually received an offer to work for the Yahoo Sports Contributor Network to cover the Green Bay Packers and the Indiana Pacers. I had a 3-month trial period to start out. I found some success with that, and I got an offer from Fansided, who most people have heard of. After a few months there, I had a pretty good opportunity to get my content featured in places like Sports Illustrated, ESPN, Fox Sports, some well-known publications I'm pretty sure most listeners have probably heard of. After that, I actually was able to become a contributor to Forbes, as you mentioned, in their sports money department, breaking down contracts. Basically anything to do with numbers, that was my job. I found a lot of success there, and that springboarded me with The Inquisitor, where I became a columnist and actually an editor, and I actually still work there today. And as you also mentioned, now I've opened up my own NBA website as well. Yeah, describe that. The new NBA website, it's budding, it's going to be big. Just describe what that is about. NBA, I'm assuming, but Sure.
Going a little bit deeper, I guess.
Yeah, so basically, one of the things that we've noticed, especially myself over the past few years in sports coverage is, people like to get that clickbait, right? And I think everybody that reads internet news knows what clickbait is. And for us, the biggest thing for us with NBAanalysis.net is we want to focus on in-depth coverage of every team in the NBA. We want to bring people analysis of news, analysis of roster moves, analysis of what to expect from their team. And we want to bring it in a way where they're going to get what they think they're going to get. They're not going to click on an article and get some clickbait title that doesn't actually tell them what to expect in detail.
What about basketball attracts you? You write a lot about hoops. Is it the action, the great players that play the game these days? Is it the little bumps that cover the ball? What is it about basketball in the NBA that is so attractive, not just to you, do you think, but just to a huge global audience?
Well, I think it's quite a few different things. You touched on a few of them. I think obviously basketball is one of the fastest-paced sports. There's entertainment nonstop, team atmosphere. You have great athletes. We've seen LeBron James, Michael Jordan back in the day,
Sure.
going back as far as Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell. So many greats. To me personally, though, I just think the majority of what got me into basketball to begin with is the entertainment aspect of it, like you mentioned. It's you don't see that in any other sport. With almost every other sport, there's lulls in the action. You have baseball where, some people get extremely bored. Football is a little bit slower paced than basketball, so I like the up-tempo atmosphere of the game.
The big news this week, Kawhi Leonard in pieces dealt for DeMar DeRozan in pieces. So one All-Star from San Antonio dealt for the All-Star DeRozan from Toronto. And looking at age, they're in their late 20s, supposedly the primes of their careers, leading their teams, and now they're traded. Why did their respective teams, do you think, trade these two pieces, and how do you think that impacts the dynamic of the NBA?
Sure. Yeah, I think as far as Toronto is concerned, whenever you have an opportunity to acquire a player of the caliber of Kawhi Leonard, you go ahead and do it. I know he's on a one-year deal. He expires after this offseason. Quite a few reports and rumors are stating that he will not re-sign in Toronto. But we saw that last year as well with Paul George when Oklahoma City. Many people thought he was headed to L.A., just like Kawhi Leonard is being rumored to be going. I think Toronto is kind of making this move hoping that they can convince Kawhi to stay long-term, and if so, they'll have a championship contender there in the Eastern Conference for quite some time. As far as San Antonio, this is a deal that had to be made. Leonard had some, drama with the Spurs last season regarding his injury. Popovich, Parker both came out and talked about it publicly. He didn't like that. The team felt like he could play. He felt like he couldn't. There just was no coming back from that. So San Antonio had to go out and find the best deal they could make. I think they wanted to stay away from trading him to the Western Conference, a.k.a. the Lakers were interested. I don't think that was ever something the San Antonio Spurs wanted to do, trade him within the conference. But to acquire a talent like DeMar DeRozan, he's a great player. He's in his prime.
Sure.
He's had some great scoring years in Toronto. There's been some criticism of him in the playoffs, but I don't think you can pin that entirely on him. He's still got 2 years left on his deal, a $27 million player option on the third year. I think that's the best return you could have possibly gotten. And a lot of people forget about Jacob Poeltl. He's a very good young big man as well.
Yeah, there's some extra pieces in there that definitely made that even more intriguing, if that's even possible. Big news in baseball, too. The big news this week, last night, we're recording this on a Thursday, going to air on a Friday. Last night, Manny Machado was dealt from Baltimore to the Los Angeles Dodgers for prospects. I want you to think about all the people you know, because this is a big deal. L.A. got this great piece that they've been targeting from Baltimore. You could trade for something from somebody you know, say a nice, a fun dog, a car, a housewife. What would it be? What would it be? Is there anybody in mind where you think, oh, I wish they had that thing, and I'd want to trade for it?
That's a really interesting question. I think for me personally, though, I don't think I would trade for anything.
Okay.
I've always been a firm believer in earning what you have. Hard work feels good, and the reward for that hard work is a bigger accomplishment to me than being given something or trading for something. But I guess if I was put in a position where I had to, I wouldn't mind a Lamborghini. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a Lamborghini. One of my buddy has one.
That's a good one. I got. There's some pets that my friends have. A couple cats that I'm really partial to. Lamborghini's a great pick, though. Okay, being a journalist, I want to name an athlete, and I want you to tell me what you would ask them. I know a lot of times as journalists, we think of these athletes and we try to think of what would we ask them. Well, I want to toss out some to you, some interesting guys over the course of sports, a couple of them being in the NBA. And if you had a chance to ask them a question, and knowing they would respond 100% truthfully, I want to know what you would ask them. My first one is maybe the most colorful, literally and figuratively, player in NBA history, Dennis Rodman. What would you ask him?
I think it would come post-career. I'd be interested to find out what motivated him to become friends with Kim Jong-un.
Sure.
I think that would be the one thing that I would be most interested in hearing from him.
Wilt Chamberlain, there's so many stories, legends both on the court and off about Wilt. What would be a question you want to ask him?
Well, I think it'd be interesting to find out, if what he thinks of today's big men. Back then he was the most dominant and probably still is in history, the most dominant big man that the NBA has seen. I'd be interested to find out from him what he thinks of the new the new NBA, all the three-point shooting, not necessarily going through the post anymore. That would be interesting for me to find out from him.
Do you think, and there's been stories about Wilt Chamberlain, how he used to work with Rick Barry on his free throws, or used to work with coaches on his free throws, going underhanded, and he never could get it down. Do you think coaches today, in today's NBA, they would have a chance of transforming Wilt Chamberlain into a potential three-point threat, or was he more of a lost cause?
I think if Wilt Chamberlain played in today's NBA, I don't think he'd have to change his game. I don't think anyone could guard him even today.
No,
I don't think he could ever become a three-point shooter, but I don't think he'd have to.
He was incredible the way he could dribble and play point as a 7'2" center. It was impressive. How about Muhammad Ali? What would you ask Muhammad Ali if you had the chance?
That's a good question. There's a lot of things you could ask Muhammad Ali. I would like to get his opinion on today's most famous boxer, Floyd Mayweather. I'd like to see what he thinks of his antics. I'd like to see what he would think about fighting him, and I would love to watch that fight, of course.
Here's one we just had in Wimbledon. Famous tennis player Billie Jean King just had a movie made about her starring Emma Stone. What would you want to ask Billie Jean King if you had a chance?
I'm not the biggest tennis fan, but I think I would want to to find out what makes, or how to take women's tennis to another level.
Sure.
You got Serena Williams, but outside of Serena Williams, you don't hear much about women's tennis. You don't hear much about her either. So I would like to hear from her, how to take that sport to the next level.
Couple more for you. Babe Ruth, the great Bambino. There's pictures. There are some video, I guess. I think there is. I could be wrong, though. I don't know if they had it back then. There's some audio, I think, but I could be wrong again. There's not much out there besides legend and numbers from Babe Ruth. What would you want to ask him if you had the chance?
Well, I think the most intriguing thing to me would be his thoughts on Barry Bonds in the steroid era now. See what he thinks of it, whether or not they should make the Hall of Fame. My guess is his opinion would be no. But I'd be interested to hear what he thinks about how the game has changed in that aspect.
How about Tom Brady? You have a chance to ask Tom Brady any question, and he will respond truthfully. What would it be?
It'd be a little bit of two things. I'd be interested to find out about Deflategate. I think everyone wants to know what happened there.
Sure.
But I think also just in general, I would love to find out more about his thoughts of Peyton Manning and that rivalry that they had.
Last one. Any athlete of your choice, is there one athlete you'd love to ask them a question knowing they would respond 100% truthfully?
Let's see. I would probably ask Michael Jordan about the debate between him and LeBron. Who's the best? You hear about, almost every other fan has a different opinion. And I would like to hear from Michael himself.
Okay, last one. This is a bit of a longer question. We like to have people describe things through songs, through sounds. I'm going to give you the song section. So I want you to describe the NBA offseason in 3 song titles. We've not tried this variation before. We'll see how you do. I'll give you my examples to give you some time to think about them. For me, I picked the song OK Go's Here We Go Again because I thought going into the offseason with LeBron leaving, we'd have another Here We Go Again moment with Cleveland where they'd burn the jerseys, although they've reacted pretty well considering what happened. But then again, LeBron did bring them a championship. My second pick for a song title to describe the NBA offseason was Big Papa by Notorious B.I.G. because of all the big men who've been drafted, I think there are 5 of the top 7. And that just seems unique in today's NBA. And my third is Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On because Josh Hart won Summer League MVP. But are there a couple song titles that you kind of capture the spirit of the NBA offseason?
Well, first of all, let me say you set the bar extremely high for me, so I appreciate that. As a sports journalist, I'm going to go with I'm So Tired from the Beatles.
Oh, I like it.
That'd be a good way to describe free agency for any journalist out there, the wear and tear it takes on you, no sleep, whatnot. Going to Cleveland and LeBron, I would say I Miss You Already. I don't know who sings it. I just know that song's there, but I know Cleveland is definitely feeling that way right now. Finally, I think, as most fans would agree with, when the Golden State Warriors signed DeMarcus Cousins, I feel like most fans have already given up on the 2018-19 season, so another one bites the dust would probably fit there.
So fitting. Well done, Evan Massey. Thanks for jumping on the podcast. Remind people, you are very active on social media. You write for a lot of great publications and do a lot of great work. Where can people find you online?
People can find me on Twitter at Massey_Evan. And on Facebook, you can search Evan Massey, and I should pop up.
Wonderful. Evan Massey, thanks for jumping on the podcast. We really appreciate it. You've been listening to The Completely Serious under the Public House Media family. We'll talk with you in a couple weeks.